Welcome to Saturday Morning Rewind, a show dedicated to the love of animation and feeling like a kid again. Let's go back in time to when cats defended Third Earth.
Sword of Omens, give me sight beyond sight.
A masked duck protected the streets of St. Canard.
I am the terror that flaps in the night.
And knowing was half the battle.
Yo, Joe!
Let's go back with Saturday Morning Rewind and your host, Tim Nidell.
Hello, all you fellow animation lovers out there. Welcome to Saturday Morning Rewind with your host, Tim Nidell. That is me, of course. Make sure you're following us online at Saturday Rewind or my personal one at Tim_Nidell. This month's interview is a great one, especially if you're like me and love classic Disney animated films, because I have the wonderfully talented Lisa Davis on the podcast. And of course, she was a voice of Anita on Disney's 1961 classic, 101 Dalmatians.
Roger, dear. Tea time.
Cruella, isn't that a new fur coat?
101? Well, where did they all come from?
It was one of the first animated Disney movies I remember watching as a kid, and I still love it today. I feel like a kid watching it still. The animation is just beautiful. The voiceover just is perfect. Matches every character perfectly. And Lisa did an amazing job as Anita. But did you know that Disney wanted her to voice Cruella de Vil? And of course, we talk about that and voicing Anita in this podcast episode. And Lisa Davis, such a beautiful soul. I mean, so insanely nice. It was such a great time chatting with her. And actually, we spoke for about a half an hour, like a week before the interview, and I found out that she used to live right next to my small town in Montana, just like 15 minutes away. So we referenced that a couple times during the interview. But of course, before I play that, make sure to check us out online, SaturdayMorningRewind.com. And while you're there, go to the donation tab, just like our producers and executive producers of this podcast episode did. Just like Mike Clemons, he's our executive producer of this episode, as well as Alan S86. He is also an executive producer of this episode. And a quick shout out to our producers, Torrie Garvin and Gemma Bright. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your continued support. And if you're listening and you want to help us out, jump on over to our donation tab to find out how you can do that.
Hey, Toonsters, this is Buster Bunny. No relation to Babs Bunny. We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you this very important interview from Saturday Morning Rewind.
How are
Hold
you?
on just
Okay.
a second. Let me turn my TV down. I don't know that I can stop my dog from barking. I have a new little puppy here.
Well, it kind of
So if you-
fits. It fits with the interview if there's puppy barking in the background.
It does. It does, actually. I thought about that. Okay, Tim, here I am.
Well, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing? How's Hamilton?
Doing very well. We had the fair this weekend, so I took my youngest daughter to that on Friday night, and so that was fun. And smoke is clearing out, so that's always a good thing.
Good. Good. Yes, the smoke has been terrible here, too.
Yeah, I keep seeing the
Really
news.
bad.
Yeah. And then on top of that, then you have the smog to deal with, so that's not a good thing.
You have smog?
No, you guys in California.
Yes. I was going to say, you don't have smog.
No, hopefully we never
No.
do have smog.
No, you don't have smog. It's beautiful there. What I love is when you're driving into Hamilton from, say, Victor, and you cross over the water there.
Yeah.
That's such a pretty, when you look to your right and look up of the water, you know.
Yep.
So many pretty places to look at there, you know.
Absolutely.
So much.
Yeah, it's a blessing to live here for sure.
It is. A bit hard in the winter.
Oh yeah, when it gets negative 20. It doesn't hit that cold that much, but there's like 1 week, like in early February, where we could see early, like negative 20s or negative teens. But other than that, if you can get past, anything below 10 degrees, you'll be fine.
Good. All right. So tell me, how do you use this interview?
So this is going to be an audio interview. We have a fan base, usually between the ages of 20 to about 45 is my age range. People who grew up with the 1980s cartoons is typically my fan base. So pretty much people who are like me, you know, who grew up loving the stuff I loved when I was a kid, that is the listenership of the show.
I see. Good. All righty. Good.
And of course, growing up in the early 80s, I was a huge Disney fan. And of course, mainly the older Disney movies, and 101 Dalmatians has always been one of my favorite movies ever since I saw it. I think it was when they re-released it in theater in 1985. I think that's the first time I saw Dalmatians.
It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. And actually, most of the people who are currently working at the studios, who of course are not working with hand-drawn animation anymore, it's CG. And but when I go into the studio, which I do on occasion, they all tell me how they absolutely loved the art of 101 Dalmatians. Some of Disney's most famous artists worked on that. You know, Cruella de Vil was drawn by Mark Davis.
Yep.
And his rendering of Cruella is just absolutely fantastic. My character, too, just beautiful, beautiful drawings. And the whole technique that they used for that movie is just remarkable. It's so very, very beautiful.
It's like it's a piece of art. That's what it is, a piece of art.
Yes, I'm very proud to be a part of it. And I actually, as a young lady, when I was doing this, I had no idea at the time what it was going to mean for a lifetime, because the Disney classics go on and on and on, and the fan base for them is enormous, absolutely enormous. The Disney clubs and D23.
Yep.
They just absolutely adore the classic Disney product. And very often when there is something that I do for them, a signing or something, the people that stand in front of me and what they tell me, what the movie meant to them, how they saw it with their father when they were a child, or how they've taken their grandchildren to see it, or it's really wonderful. And sometimes they bring me things like blankets and not only pictures, but everything. It's one of the most successfully produced movies of all time. In other words, the Dalmatians, the dogs, the dishes, the cups, the everything. I mean, I think it takes the record for having the most stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And they bring me things like baby blankets and sometimes even one time a man even made me cry because I'm a dog lover.
Okay.
I love dogs. I'm a great fan of animals, especially dogs. And he bought me a picture of his dog, whom he had named Perdita.
Aww.
And the dog had passed. The dog was no longer living, but he told me, and with tears in his eyes, how much she and the movie meant to him. And it's just really incredible how it goes on and on and on. The other day, actually, I signed 350 pictures.
Wow.
At a signing with somebody with me called an authenticator, who authenticates that it's actually you signing. And I went to a local hotel, and they had rented a room for the day. It only took me a couple of hours, but I signed 350 pictures. And every day I get in the mail, I get requests for pictures. Most often they do send me a stamped addressed envelope and a picture, which is the only way I can do it, because I have so much going on all of the time. I simply couldn't afford to be sending pictures and paying the postage to China and Russia and all over the world. All over the world.
Wow.
It's just absolutely incredible. So about once a month I sit down at my table and I open all of these letters and read the letters and read what it has meant to people, and it's just incredible.
Yeah.
As I say, and I had no idea when I sat there reading, auditioning, and actually got the role, how much this would all mean over so many, many, many years, you know.
Yeah. And
not much you do. There's one other movie that I did. There's just a horrible, terrible movie called Queen of Outer Space. And that movie lives on because it's so damn bad. You know how that happens? With
Yep, I
movies
do.
that are really bad, they become cult
Yep.
movies. Well,
Yep.
it's a cult movie.
I need
And
to-
everybody knows the lines, and I was in this movie. So I have two that they always request.
Wow.
Never as much as 101 Dalmatians, but Queen of Outer Space comes in second. So,
I need to watch that one. I've never heard of that one.
oh, it's just wonderful. It stars Zsa Zsa Gabor. Need
Okay.
I say more?
Yep. Yep.
Zsa Zsa Gabor at her worst, you know. And but anyway, that was a long, long time ago. And there was
Wow.
one good thing about that was I met my husband.
Oh, there you
On
go.
that movie.
There you go.
He was the lead male actor,
Wow.
and that's how we met.
Yeah. So it's a good thing you did that film then.
Yes, it is. It is.
So you talked about the audition process for Dalmatians. I read that you initially were asked to read for Cruella. Is that correct?
Yes, I was, and the reason for that is that Walt Disney, when he originally was planning Cruella de Vil, again, Zsa Zsa Gabor was very, very popular at one period, say in the 50s. And, you know, she was famous for fur coats and diamonds and wealth and the good things in life. And he felt it would be fun if Cruella had a slightly Zsa Zsa Gabor accent. And because I had worked with Zsa Zsa Gabor on this dreadful movie, I had learned how to imitate her very, very well. And he knew that I could do that. And he called me in to read for Cruella de Vil. And I was in a small room, actually with Walt Disney.
Wow.
And he was reading the part of Anita. And I was truly struggling with Cruella de Vil because it wasn't me. Cruella was definitely not me. Even with a Zsa Zsa Gabor accent, it was wrong for me. So I had this terrible dilemma of trying to figure out how to tell Mr. Disney, the great Walt Disney, that he'd made a mistake in calling me in for Cruella.
Wow.
And I said to him, "Excuse me, sir, as we're reading this, I realize that I am much, much more Anita than I am Cruella." And he said, "Well, would you like to read Anita instead?" And I said, "Oh, I'd love to. May I?" He said, "Yes, of course." So we switched roles, and that's how I became Anita. So that was not his original choice for me. My experience with Walt Disney had started long ago. I was a child actress in England. And when I started working when I was 6 years of age. And I can still find that movie on the television. I can still pull that up, an English movie. But I did a movie with Sir David Lean, who wasn't Sir David Lean at the time. His name was David Lean. And Walt Disney saw this movie and felt that I looked like Alice in Wonderland. And at that time, he was planning Alice in Wonderland. And his original concept for Alice in Wonderland was to have a live Alice and animate around her.
Yep.
So he brought me from England. All of his original work was that way. One of his first projects was called Out of the Inkwell, and it was where a live Alice was with characters that came out of the inkwell, drawn. But when it became the project to do an entire movie with a live person and animating around her, it became too much of too difficult. So he changed his mind and decided to animate Alice and sent me back to England. Very, very disappointed little girl.
No kidding.
Very, very disappointed. Oddly enough, I knew the young girl who voiced Alice, Kathy Beaumont, her name, because we had gone to school together in England.
Wow.
But she was living in America at the time. Her parents had come to America, and I wasn't. So it was easier to use her for the voice, which she also did Wendy in Peter Pan.
She did, yeah.
And so Walt Disney had remembered me, actually, which was very, very sweet of him. And that's why I got the call to go in to read for Cruella. But he was very, very kind to me. He was very sweet, very, very nice. And I enjoyed being around him very, very much. The actual project itself was done differently than they do it today. Today, they don't take as long with the voice work as we did then. I would go into the studio, and they would have one line maybe that they wanted me to read, and of course it was all over the walls, all the drawings over the walls in a big studio. And they'd say, "All right, the line today is, 'It's tea time, Roger. It's tea time, darling.'" And they would show me the picture of me doing that. And then I would record that one line as many different ways as you can possibly imagine. From "It's tea time, Roger. Roger, darling, it's tea time. Tea time, Roger, tea time." Every different way you could possibly say that line.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes that would be all that I would do. That would be like the day's work.
Huh.
I mean, it didn't take a day, but that was the reason they called me in, to get that one line. Today, I believe they record it much more at one time, and they record, if there's more than one person in the scene, they record together. I never worked with anybody.
Oh, wow. I
was always by myself, and they just did my lines, and, but I never stood there with anybody else. Never stood there with Cruella. They were all individually recorded.
So the black and white pictures that I've seen online of you with some Dalmatians next to Ben Wright, the voice of Roger, that's just publicity shots then?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Never recorded together. No. And Ben Wright, I knew Ben Wright before we went into that movie, and also part of the time the dog Perdita was played by an English lady called Lisa Daniels, and Lisa Daniels and I had done a movie with Betty Davis called The Virgin Queen. So I knew Lisa Daniels too, but we never worked together. I was always by myself.
Well, that's a shame.
And I went, no, it was all right. It was that the way they did it then. I mean, we didn't know any other way, so I couldn't say to myself, "Oh, this is a shame, I'm not working with anybody." That was the way it was done. And I was under contract to Walt Disney, but not for what you call first call. In other words, the picture, my participation took about 3 years in the movie. So they put you under contract with what they call second call, meaning that if you are already working on the day they want you, let's say they want you next Tuesday, and you've got a job, you're already working, you're doing Perry Mason over at a studio in Hollywood, then they take the first available day they can get after that.
Okay.
And they send a limousine for you and take you to the studio. And it's really very lovely. And it was a wonderful time because, in the 50s, the majority of studios fell apart due to television coming in with such a roar. So studios like MGM and 20th Century Fox and Paramount and the big studios really declined, and their product declined. That's why you had dreadful movies like Queen of Outer Space. They didn't have the big studio roster of stars, the Clark Gables, the Ava Gardners, the Lana Turners. That had all faded away. So when you worked for Walt Disney and you went to the studio, it was like going from driving a tin can to a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Because the studio was still producing quality films. And it was a joy to go to the commissary, for instance. The commissary was wonderful, where you could have lunch, and Walt Disney would always come into the commissary to eat, which was nice to see him sitting at a table in the commissary, you know. And but it was a quality product among really shabby stuff that you were almost ashamed of working on. You didn't even want to tell people what you were doing because, I did some really bad movies because that's what they were making at the time. Queen of Outer Space, another one, a Western called The Dalton Girls, which also has a following. It's a Western. I'm a heavy. I play the heavy in the movie, which is very strange, but I do.
Oh, wow.
And anyway, it was a pleasure to work for Disney, as it is today. When you go to the studio, it's just so well done and so beautiful. The commissary is still wonderful. The sound stages are wonderful. You're aware that you're part of a very classy product.
Yeah.
It's... And I have many friends who are animators, some who would not convert to computer animation. One of those is a man called Andreas Deja.
Oh, he is one of my favorites.
He's a dear friend of mine.
Oh, wow.
And when I first met him many, many years ago, he did the most wonderful drawing of me, copying the style in which I was drawn in 101 Dalmatians. And he became a wonderful friend because we would do lectures together. We'd go to the Art Institute, and he would have a method of showing up on a screen as he drew. And it was lovely. Andreas is a wonderful, dear man, and of course his work is incredible. I have another friend who worked with him all of the time at Disney on characters like Scar in The Lion King was, of course, Andreas, and Jafar in Aladdin, and let's see, Lilo in Lilo and Stitch. He did Lilo. And, he's held out for hand animation. He will not do the computer animation. So he's no longer actually working for Disney, but he's definitely a Disney legend.
For sure. Yeah, he's my favorite living Disney animator out there. So talented.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, so talented.
Well, he lives very near me here. He's a neighbor.
Oh, wow.
And I go up to his house and visit with him, and sometimes we go out to dinner, and he's wonderful. He's got a project that he's doing now that is hand-drawn, his own story and his own... It's an incredible piece that will, it's been delayed, of course, due to COVID and what have you, but eventually it will be out, and I know that it will take an Academy Award.
Oh, that's amazing.
In the short film category, yes.
Wow.
I think it's called The Girl and the Tiger.
Okay, yeah, I've been hearing about that for the past couple years.
Have you?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I've seen it. and it's just beautiful. It's actually just beautiful.
Well, I am definitely looking forward to that.
It's all of his work, and it's about a Siberian tiger, and it's wonderful.
Wow.
It's just wonderful.
Well, next time you talk to him, if he's ever interested on coming on a show like mine, give him my phone number. I would absolutely love to talk to that guy. He is one of my inspirations.
He's very special. He's very special.
Well, since we're talking about animators, let's talk about the animator of Roger and Anita, Milt Kahl, the great Milt Kahl, of course. Was he present for some of your recording sessions to kind of get some expressions?
He was. Yes. And they took a lot of pictures of me. And if you see the pictures that the studio took of me as Anita, sitting on a bench, there's one of me sitting on a bench reading a book, you can see where they got Anita from.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Even though they actually did have somebody who did the action part. I think it was Helene Stanley. But it's my face.
Yeah,
and
I've seen
Milt
those.
Kahl, the great Milt Kahl, absolutely. What a group of people those at the 9 old men were. My God.
Yeah,
the talent of those people.
My favorite Disney animator of all time is Ollie Johnston.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, he's one of the 9 old men.
He is, yep.
But it's such a different world there now, when you go to feature animation, which has an entire floor, and they're all on computers. They're all on computers. One of my friends, her name is Kathy Bailey. I don't know whether you saw Frozen 2. Did you see Frozen 2?
I have, yeah, I have.
Okay, she did the horse.
Okay.
In the water, water horse. But to see that all on computers is incredible. I mean, and of course they're all able to work from home now if they want to.
Okay.
Nobody's been in the studio for months and months and months and months. So they all have their computers at home, and then they have their Zoom meetings. And they've just finished a picture. In fact, they finished it this week, I think. I don't know when it's going to come out. They've just finished one. But I would say that the people who are there now, including, say, Kathy Bailey, are people who survived the transition from hand-drawn to computer animation.
Yep.
And a lot of those, and I'm not talking about Andreas because he's at the top of the game, obviously.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, wound up as doing coffee at Starbucks. I mean, there was such a cut in the talent at the studio that so many of them could not make the transition from hand-drawn.
There's a big difference between hand-drawn and computer animation.
Yes, a big, big difference. Anyway, I've never owned a Dalmatian. I don't suggest that anybody owns a Dalmatian. In fact, the rescue societies dread the picture coming out.
Oh, wow.
Because people go out and get Dalmatian, and then they realize 3 months in that the dog is too much for them to handle.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Dogs, very difficult dogs. And then they send them to the dog kennel, and they've got all of these dogs to be adopted on their hands. I've never had a Dalmatian. My grandchild has one and called me with great delight, telling me, and I said, "Oh, you've made a big mistake." And he said, "How could you say that to me?" I said, "Because you've made a big mistake." So he calls me now and then and he says, "You were right.
Oh, man.
This dog is crazy."
Oh, boy.
Jumping over the couch.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. I know. Yes.
Wow.
But yes, it was the job of a lifetime. And as I say, it's just remarkable to me how all of these years have passed, and you can go and see it, and it's still as fresh as the day it came out.
Yeah, and what's great is that in 100 years, when both you and I are gone, it's still going to be living on.
Yes, yes. always new generations of children. And, you know, I must tell you, and I know this is a very prejudicial remark on my behalf, but I don't find myself nearly as excited about going to see the new animated movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know whether it's because I'm part of the past, but the style of them, it just doesn't touch. I mean, when you see something like Bambi,
Yep.
or Dumbo, or, you know, some of these wonderful classics, there's more heart to them.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
And you know what it is if it touches your heart, it stays in your heart. And that's why children remember, you know, when Bambi's mother is killed and Bambi's walking through the forest saying, "Mother, mother," you know.
Yep.
I mean, it broke your heart. I can't even watch that today.
Yeah.
I can't watch Dumbo's mother sing "Baby Mine."
Oh.
You know? I mean, these movies really touched you. And I don't find that with movies like Wreck-It Ralph or, you know, the movies that you see today. Even though they're well done and well received, they just, to me, don't have the touch of the hand-drawn animation.
And I'm in the same mindset as you. Something happened when they switched over to CG. And when you look at the characters' eyes, there's no soul to those characters, it seems like.
There's no soul in the eyes, and the eyes all, for some reason or other, to me, the eye always sort of turns in. It doesn't look.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a real eye.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with anime. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But hold on, this little puppy is now biting my. Talking about, I've got a new puppy here. She's 3 months old. And she is a chug, which is a chihuahua and a pug combined.
Oh, so cute.
She is cute, but she bites.
Yeah, she's being so good, though. I don't hear any noises. She's doing so good.
She's been very good. She's been very good. She decided to be quiet for the interview.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yes.
Well, I just have a couple more, maybe just a couple more minutes. So,
all right.
Walt Disney is... He's the person I look up to in life, honestly. Besides my dad, who passed away, Walt Disney is somebody who I truly admire. So knowing that you met him and those amazing stories you told me already about him, were there any other stories that may come up that you can think of Walt Disney?
Oh, well, you know, my husband felt the same way about Walt Disney that you do. He couldn't get over Walt Disney. I mean, to me, he called him Uncle Walt.
Yeah.
I don't know why. We certainly were not related, but he felt he was like a member of his family. And of course, when I was working at the studio and my husband would come and have lunch with me, rarely, but he did come and have lunch, and Walt Disney would walk into the commissary, my husband would almost faint. Because here was the real Walt Disney, and he was very kind. And I remember my husband said to me, "Do you think he'd mind if I went up to him and asked him if I could shake his hand?" And of course, I'm very against all of that sort of stuff. I don't like it. I don't like to bother people in their private time, you know, when they're eating lunch or something. But my husband was so excited. I said, "Well, yes, if you must." And of course he did. And Walt Disney was very, very, very polite.
Amazing.
And very, very nice, and thanked him very much for coming up to say hello. There was that. I remember that. And then another time, Disneyland was in the process of developing rides. It had already opened, but there were new rides, and he was designing a ride at the time, and he said to me, "Would you like to see it?" And I said, "Oh, I'd love to see it. Would you show it to me?" And he said, "I've got a mock-up of it." And he took me and he showed me the model, and very excitedly showed me everything, you know, and It even had little trees, I remember, where trees would be. And it was incredible. And he was so proud to show it to me. And so when I met my husband, actually, the first date that I had with him, because, of course, my husband adored anything Disney, and Disneyland was like the epitome of everything. And he took me to Disneyland on our first date.
Perfect.
It was absolutely perfect, and so it was truly wonderful to see the new rides that he was planning, because, hold on one second, this little one has now decided to choose something. No. Anyway, it was a great period of my life. It has remained a great period of my life. And whenever I go to the studio, they always want me to say one line for some reason or other, and that is, "It's tea time, Roger. It's tea time, darling." And they just fall over when I say it, because they've watched it so many times.
Yep, same here.
And, it's just wonderful. It's been a wonderful, wonderful thrill to be a part of 101. I haven't seen Cruella. I haven't seen much of the new stuff. I'm such a purist for the original.
Yeah, I don't watch the remakes either. I've never seen any of the remakes, honestly.
No, I haven't seen any of them either, other than if it's an accident, if they're on television or something. But I've never consciously gone to a movie house. But anytime they re-release, for instance, on one of the re-releases a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, we did a companion piece to go along with the DVD, and it's called Sincerely Yours, Walt Disney. And what it is when he was planning 101 Dalmatians, he wrote many, many letters to the woman who wrote 101, Dodie. And, of course, those letters they cannot find. So they simulated what he had written to her, but they do have the letters that she wrote.
Oh, wow.
Because they're in the archives at Disney. So, she's much like in the case of Mary Poppins, where the woman who wrote Mary Poppins was very careful about how he did Mary Poppins. Dodie was also very, very conscious of how she didn't want anything changed, because she said millions of children love Perdita and Anita and the characters. Please don't change them. So there's a lovely feature called, as I say, Sincerely Yours, Walt Disney. And I read Dodie's letters.
Oh, wow.
And they have a man who does Walt Disney and sounds exactly like Walt Disney.
Wow.
So they simulated his letters based on her answers. We're going back and forth. And it's a lovely companion piece on one of the re-release editions of 101 Dalmatians.
Okay.
And it's called, see if you can find it, Tim. It's lovely. Sincerely Yours, Walt Disney.
Yeah, I have the latest Blu-ray release. It's probably on there, so I need to check that out to see if it's there.
Yeah, check it out. Yes, Sincerely Yours, Walt Disney.
Okay, yeah. As a huge Walt fan, I think it's probably going to give me goosebumps.
Yes, and the man who does it is just remarkable. Is remarkable the way he emulates Walt Disney.
Wow. And where were you when you heard the news of Walt's passing?
I was here in Studio City, where I have lived for a long time. Although I was born in England and miss it terribly, my soul is in England and my heart is here. But I was here in my home, where I have been, oddly enough, for almost 60 years. I don't move around very much, with the exception of that lovely visit to Hamilton and Victor that I had, which I loved. I really loved. Beautiful, beautiful place. Those mountains.
Yep, it's amazing here.
And what is it? The three sisters?
I don't know what they
call
are.
It the Three Sisters.
I don't know what they are, honestly.
3 peaks out like above Derby.
Yeah.
3 sisters. I think they call it the Three Sisters.
Yeah, I don't know. This is where they film Kevin Costner's TV show Yellowstone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I've been on
In
2
Derby.
episodes. Yep, I've been on 2 episodes.
Have you?
Yeah,
Good for you.
I played a deputy sheriff with Kevin in one scene. It's coming out this coming season, and then I played a state trooper in season 2.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Good. Yes, it is fun. That's a good show.
Yeah, it is. Well,
I like Kevin Costner.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites too. So being in a scene with Kevin, I was on cloud 9 that whole day.
Good for you. Good for you. And how old is your daughter?
I have 3 daughters. The youngest is 9, and then I have a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old.
I've got a 17-year-old grandchild who'll be 17 on September 24th.
Oh, wow, it's coming up.
Yes, very close, very close.
Yep.
Well, you're very rich then if you have 3 lovely daughters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. They give me gray hair now, and my hair is falling out, but I'll take that over anything else,
I know. 17 is not an easy age. The teenage years are not. They're terrible here. I'm sure they're better where you are.
17, she's doing pretty good. It's the 14-year-old's getting a little crazy, but, she's still great, though.
Good. Is there anything else I can answer for you, Tim?
I don't think so, Lisa. This has been amazing. Like I said, I love everything Disney, especially the older movies, and Dalmatians is one of my favorites, so this has been truly amazing.
Well, it's my pleasure. And good luck with everything, and give my love to Hamilton.
Absolutely, I will.
What is the name of the main store? There's a big somewhat of a department store.
There's Ford's?
Ford's, yes. I went to Ford's. I'd shop at Ford's.
Yeah, it's a good store. A lot of good stores on Main Street.
Yes. Were you born there, Tim?
I wasn't. I was actually born in Arizona, but I'm from Reno, Nevada. That's where I'm originally from.
Okay, and how come you settled in Hamilton?
My parents moved here probably about 15 years ago because my grandparents lived here for many, many years. And we were living out of state, of course, and my dad's health was declining. So I wanted to move here to get closer to him so I can, say goodbye and have my kids know him as well.
Right, know him.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. So that's why we've been here, and we love it. Good school district, not too much crime. So we stuck it out here.
Yes, I know. I really enjoyed. I had some good time there. I met some nice people, and really, really lovely. Gosh, beautiful.
Yeah.
So it was a pleasure speaking with you, Tim. Call me anytime you wish. Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You know where I am.
I do.
And, all right, my love. God bless you.
You too. Thank you.
And you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Saturday Morning Rewind. Please check them out on Facebook and Twitter. And that's all, folks.